Hey, tonight, we're going to a party, but not just any party. We're traveling back to the heart of the ancient world, to a night of legendary excess, a night that has echoed through history as the ultimate symbol of hedonism and decay. We're going to a Roman orgy, but the word itself is a lie. What you're picturing, a joyous free-for-all of sensual pleasure, is a modern fantasy. The reality, the Roman convivium, was something far more complex, more structured, and infinitely more dangerous. It was a glittering stage for power plays, a minefield of social etiquette, and a place where a single mistake could cost you everything. Survival here wasn't about enduring hardship. It was about navigating a treacherous web of power, poison, and privilege. Before we recline at the feast, a quick request. If these journeys into the dark corners of history are something you enjoy, a quick like or a subscribe is deeply appreciated. It's a small click for you, but it's a huge signal for me. And I'm always fascinated by our global listening post, so drop a comment with your city and the time. It's a thrill to think of this story reaching you over a morning commute in Manila or a late-night study session in Cairo. All right, now get comfortable, settle into your chair, dim the lights, and let the sounds of your world fade. You're about to be a guest at the most exclusive and most perilous dinner party in history. Prepare yourself, because tonight pleasure is the disguise that danger wears. You arrive at the villa as dusk bleeds purple and orange across the hills outside Rome. The air, which in the city was a thick soup of smoke, sewage, and humanity, is cleaner here, but it's heavy with a different kind of intensity. It's a humid, fragrant air, thick with the scent of night-blooming jasmine, wood smoke from the kitchens, and the cloying sweetness of rosewater, which has been sprinkled on the path to welcome the guests. The villa is not a house. It is a declaration of war against modesty. It clings to the hillside like a predator, its white marble walls glowing in the light of 100 flickering torches held by silent, statuesque slaves. You can hear the music from 100 yards away, not a gentle melody, but the strange, reedy piping of an aulos and the sharp, percussive plucking of a lyre, a sound that is both festive and unsettlingly alien to your modern ears. Your invitation was not a casual affair, it was a summons. You are a man of some, but not supreme importance. A merchant whose shipping interests the host finds temporarily useful, perhaps. Or a poet hoping for the life-giving chalice of patronage. You are here not as a friend, but as an accessory, a piece of living decoration for the host's grand display. And you know, with a cold certainty in the pit of your stomach, that your position is precarious. As you approach the great bronze doors, they swing open as if by magic, pulled by slaves who are trained to be invisible. The man who greets you is the vestiarius, the slave in charge of cloaks, but his demeanor is more imperious than many free men you know. He and his underlings take your dusty traveling cloak with a faint, almost imperceptible air of disdain. You are acutely aware of your own clothing, a simple, clean wool toga. It is the proper attire, but next to the others now arriving, it feels plain, almost rustic. You see men draped in wool dyed with Tyrian purple, a color so expensive its cost is measured in silver by the ounce. You see women with hairstyles so complex they must have taken a team of slaves all afternoon to construct, their fingers and necks glittering with gold and pearls from the farthest reaches of the empire. You are ushered from the atrium into the peristyle, an open courtyard garden surrounded by a colonnade. The display of wealth is dizzying, designed to intimidate, to crush the spirit of any rival. Fountains splash, their waters perfumed. Mosaic floors depict brutal scenes of mythology, gods transforming into beasts, heroes slaughtering monsters. The frescoes on the walls are masterpieces of color and form, showing landscapes and erotic scenes with a frankness that makes you blush. Every object, from the silver lamps to the marble statues, screams of money and power. And then you see him, your host the Dominus. Let us call him Titus. He stands near the center of the garden, not holding court, but being court. People orbit him like planets around a sun. He is not a large man, but he radiates an aura of absolute terrifying power. He is perhaps 50, his body gone slightly to seed, but his eyes are as sharp and predatory as a hawk's. He sees you. He knows exactly who you are, what you are worth, and how you can be used. He beckons you forward with a single languid finger. The crowd of sycophants parts for you, their eyes following you with a mixture of curiosity and contempt. Who is this to be summoned by the Dominus? Ah, my dear friend, Titus says, his voice smooth and cultured, yet with an underlying edge of iron. The term friend is a weapon here, a reminder that your relationship exists entirely at his pleasure. I am so glad you could tear yourself away from your ledgers. He smiles, but it does not reach his eyes. It is a baring of teeth. You murmur the appropriate pleasantries, words you practiced on the journey here, words of flattery about his home, his health, his generosity. Your Latin, learned from books, feels stiff and academic compared to his fluid, powerful speech. He listens, his head cocked, evaluating your performance. A slave, a boy no older than 12 with wide, terrified eyes, stands beside him, holding a silver tray with a goblet of wine. Titus doesn't look at the boy, doesn't even acknowledge his existence. He simply takes the goblet and continues to speak to you. "We have a special evening planned," Titus says, his gaze sweeping over the assembled guests. "A few close friends, a little music, some simple food. I do hope you have an appetite." You look at the lavish surroundings, the dozens of guests, the army of slaves, and you understand the chilling understatement. This is his definition of simple. You assure him you have a ravenous appetite, a lie that feels thin and brittle in the perfumed air. He gives you a final dismissive nod and turns his attention to a senator who has just arrived. You have been weighed, measured, and for now, not found wanting. You have passed the first test. You may now retreat back into the crowd, your heart hammering against your ribs. A short time later, a gong sounds, its deep bronze tone echoing through the villa. It is time for the feast to begin. A slave, the nomenclator, whose sole job is to know the name and status of every guest, directs everyone towards the dining room, the triclinium. The room itself is the heart of the villa's power. It is opulent, the walls covered in more frescoes, the air thick with the smell of olive oil lamps and incense. But the most important feature is the arrangement of the 3 large couches, each designed to hold 3 diners, set in a U shape around a central table. This is the triclinium. You do not sit at a Roman dinner party. You recline, the seating is not random. It is a brutally precise map of the social hierarchy. The couch of honor is for the host and his most important guests. The lowest couch is for the least important. The nomenclator, without a word, gestures you towards your assigned place. It is on the lowest couch, in the least desirable position, the one closest to the door. Your status has been publicly and unequivocally declared. You are barely on the guest list. You arrange yourself on the couch, an act that is far more awkward than you imagined. You must lie on your left side, propped up on a cushion, leaving your right hand free to eat. The position feels unnatural, forcing you to engage your core muscles. It's immediately uncomfortable, and you see now why Romans suffered from digestive ailments. Before you can adjust, another slave approaches. This one carries a silver basin of warm, scented water and a linen towel. He kneels and begins to wash your hands. It is an intimate, yet utterly impersonal act. Then the slaves attend to your feet. They remove your sandals and wash your feet as well. The water is cool, a temporary relief, but as the slave washes your feet, you see the faint, crisscrossing lines of old scars on his back, visible through his simple tunic. The marks of a whip, the casual, everyday brutality of his existence, is laid bare for a fleeting moment, a stark counterpoint to the luxury surrounding you. You feel a wave of nausea, a deep, sickening sense of complicity. This entire glittering affair is built on the broken bodies and crushed spirits of people like him. He finishes his task, his eyes never once meeting yours, and moves on to the next guest. You are left reclining, your hand and feet clean, feeling deeply, profoundly unclean. The first course, the gustaccio, or appetizer, begins to arrive. An army of slaves moves with silent, choreographed precision, placing small, intricate dishes on the central table. The food is unlike anything you have ever seen. There are dishes of what look like hard-boiled eggs, but they are served with a complex sauce of pine nuts and pepper. There are small, roasted birds, which you realize with a jolt are stuffed dormice, a famous Roman delicacy. There is a platter of sea urchins, and another of snails fattened on milk. And then comes the smell, an undercurrent in almost every dish. It is a sharp, salty, deeply pungent aroma. It is garum, the infamous Roman fish sauce. It is made by taking the entrails, heads, and blood of fish, layering them with salt, and leaving them to ferment in the sun for months. The resulting liquid is strained and used as a condiment in almost everything. It is the Roman equivalent of ketchup, soy sauce, and salt, all rolled into one overpowering flavor bomb. A slave offers you a piece of bread to dip into a small bowl of garum-laced olive oil. You must eat it, To refuse would be a grave insult to your host. You dip the bread, you bring it to your mouth. The flavor is an assault. It is intensely salty, intensely fishy, and has a strange, almost cheesy undertone from the fermentation. It is not entirely unpleasant, but it is utterly overwhelming. You force a smile, pretending to enjoy this culinary shock. The wine begins to flow. But this too is not what you expect. A handsome young slave boy, the Caiathus, approaches with a large, ornate silver crater, a vessel for mixing wine, and a ladle. Roman wine is not like modern wine. It is thick, sweet, and incredibly potent. It is almost never drunk neat. To do so is considered the mark of a barbarian or a drunkard. It must be mixed with water, often cooled with snow brought down from the mountains at great expense. Titus, the host, dictates the mixing ratio. 1 part wine to 3 parts water, he commands. Let us begin the evening with clarity of mind. We can descend into madness later. His guests laugh, a chorus of obsequious chuckles. The Caiathus ladles the mixture into your goblet. You take a sip. It is strange. The sweetness of the wine is diluted, but it's still present, tasting of raisins and honey. There is a faint, resinous taste as well, from the pitch used to line the amphorae in which it was stored. As you drink, your eyes fall upon the Caiathus. The boy is beautiful, his face a mask of practiced neutrality, but you see it again. The same deep, abiding fear in his eyes that you saw in the boy holding Titus's goblet in the garden. He is a possession, a plaything, his fate entirely in the hands of the powerful, capricious men he serves. Suddenly, from the head couch, there is a crash. One of the guests, a portly man with a flushed face, has dropped his silver goblet. Wine, the color of dark blood, splashes across the priceless mosaic floor. An instant, deathly silence falls over the triclinium. The portly man looks horrified, not at the mess, but at the face of his host. Titus turns his head slowly. His expression is calm, almost bored. "Clumsy," he says, his voice quiet, yet carrying to every corner of the room. He does not speak to the guest. He looks past him, towards the shadows where the slaves wait. He makes a tiny, almost invisible gesture with his hand. 2 large, brutally muscular slaves emerge from the shadows. They are the Lorarii, the floggers. They move towards the Caiathus, the boy who had been serving the wine. The boy's face goes pale, his eyes widening in pure terror. He knows what is coming. It was not his fault, but in this world, fault is irrelevant. A mistake has been made in his vicinity. A price must be paid. The guest is too important to punish, but the slave is disposable. The guest who dropped the cup starts to protest. "No, Titus, it was my fault. Titus raises a hand, silencing him. The boy was not paying attention, he says, his voice still terrifyingly calm. He allowed your cup to become empty, which made you reach for more, and in your haste, you fumbled. He must be taught to be more attentive. It is a lesson for all the staff. The 2 Lorarii seize the boy. He doesn't struggle. He doesn't cry out. He goes limp, a silent, terrified resignation to his fate. They drag him from the triclinium. A moment later, from somewhere outside, you hear the first sound, a sharp, wet crack of a leather whip, followed by a thin, choked cry of pain, quickly stifled. The sound hangs in the air for a moment. Titus picks up his goblet. "Now," he says, smiling his cold, dead smile at the assembled guests. "Where were we?" "Ah yes, the dormice. I highly recommend them. They are a new batch, fattened on the finest chestnuts." The conversation resumes, a little too loud, a little too forced. The guests laugh at Titus's jokes, their eyes bright with fear and admiration for this casual display of absolute power. They eat the dormice, they praise the wine. And outside, the sound of the whip continues, a brutal, rhythmic counterpoint to the music of the lyre. You look down at the food before you, at the wine in your goblet. Your appetite is gone, replaced by a cold, sickening dread. The smells of perfume and roasting meat are now mingled with the phantom scent of fear and blood. You understand now. You are not at a dinner party. You are in the arena, and the lions are smiling at you from across the table. You have survived the introductions. You have survived the first course. But the night has barely begun, and the rules of this savage game are becoming terrifyingly clear. This is not about pleasure. This is about power, and you have none. The sounds from the courtyard cease. A terrible, echoing silence follows, more disturbing than the cries themselves. The 2 Lorarii re-enter the triclinium, their faces impassive, their work done. They melt back into the shadows as if they were never there. A moment later, another slave boy enters. He is identical to the first in his youth, his beauty, and the sheer, soul-deep terror in his eyes. He is the replacement. He takes the station of the boy who was just beaten, ready to serve the wine. his hands trembling almost imperceptibly. The machine of luxury is seamless. Its broken parts are simply discarded and replaced. The main course, the cena, begins. The sheer scale and theatricality of it are designed to overwhelm. A procession of slaves enters, bearing enormous silver platters. The centerpiece is a whole roasted boar, its tusks gilded, its hide bristling. It has been arranged to look as if it is still alive, foraging in a forest of sculpted vegetables and herbs. Titus claps his hands once, a sharp, commanding sound. A special slave, the scissor, approaches the boar. He is not a cook, he is a performer. Dressed in a vibrant, almost theatrical tunic, he moves with the grace of a dancer. He carries a set of long, wickedly sharp knives. The music of the lyre and aulos swells as the scissor begins his work. He does not simply carve the boar. He dissects it with a series of flamboyant, rhythmic cuts, each slice timed to the beat of the music. It is dinner as theatre, a spectacle of consumption. As he slices open the belly of the boar, a cascade of sausages and blood puddings spills out onto the platter, meant to represent the entrails. The guests gasp with delight at the cleverness, the sheer audacity of the display. Their earlier fear has been transmuted into a feverish excitement. The casual brutality has only sharpened their appetites, reminding them of their own power, their own safety, on the right side of the whip. Slaves scurry forward to serve the portions. A slice of the rich, fatty pork is placed on your plate, along with a glistening blood sausage. The aroma is intoxicating, but your stomach is a knot of cold dread. You watch the other guests. They eat with a focused intensity, almost a ferocity. They are not savoring the food, they are consuming status. With every mouthful of this extravagant beast, they are affirming their place in the hierarchy, their right to partake in the spoils of an empire. You eat because you must. The pork is rich and tender, flavored with honey, pepper, and a dozen other spices you cannot name. It is delicious, and that fact makes you feel even more complicit. The pleasure is tainted, a gilding on a core of utter rottenness. As you eat, you listen. The conversation around you is a deadly game of its own, a verbal gladiatorial combat veiled in pleasantries. You learn quickly that speaking your mind is a fatal error. The currency here is not truth or wit, but flattery, insinuation, and the careful deployment of information. A man on the couch above yours, a senator named Varro, leans over to Titus. Your boar, Titus, is as magnificent as your victory in the courts today. I hear you utterly ruined old Cassius. They say he will have to sell his family's estate. Titus smiles, a thin, predatory line. Cassius was a fool. He backed the wrong consortium for the grain contract in Egypt. One must know which way the wind blows. He takes a slow sip of his wine, his eyes scanning the room, a silent warning to everyone present. I control the wind. Another guest, a young, ambitious politician, chimes in. A lesson for us all, Titus. Your foresight is, as always, unparalleled. The flattery is so thick you could cut it with the scissors knife. The conversation is a tapestry of such exchanges. Men praise Titus's new aqueduct, which has surely doubled the value of his farms. They compliment his choice in gladiators for the upcoming games. They casually drop pieces of information, a rival's financial trouble, a general's secret dalliance, a magistrate's susceptibility to bribes. Every word is a move on a vast invisible chessboard. Information is traded like currency, alliances are tested, and enemies are subtly undermined. You remain silent. To speak is to risk saying the wrong thing, to ally yourself with a falling star, to reveal an ignorance that could be exploited. Your silence is your only shield. You are a ghost, an observer, hoping to remain invisible, but Titus has not forgotten you. He turns his gaze upon you, and the entire table quiets, sensing that the Dominus is about to amuse himself. Our quiet merchant, Titus says, his voice dripping with condescending amusement. You have traveled to the east, have you not? Tell us of the strange customs of those barbarians. Do they truly worship cats in Egypt? The question is a trap. He is not seeking information. He is commanding a performance. He wants you to entertain his guests, to be the exotic oddity. If you are too boring, you will be dismissed. If you are too interesting, you might be seen as a rival. You must walk a knife's edge. You begin to speak, your voice sounding thin and reedy in the suddenly silent room. You describe the temples of Alexandria, the great library, the bustling port. You choose your words with excruciating care, keeping your descriptions simple, deferential, always framing your experiences through the lens of Rome's manifest superiority. You describe the reverence for cats not as a foolish superstition, but as a curious local custom, an amusing diversion. And their women, interrupts Varro, the senator, a lecherous glint in his eye. Are they as accommodating as the whispers suggest? The men laugh, a coarse, ugly sound. This is another test. They want salacious details. They want you to confirm their own sense of sexual entitlement and power. To refuse to answer would be seen as prudish and insulting. To answer too enthusiastically would be vulgar. You navigate the treacherous waters. They are a people of strong passions, Senator, you say with a slight, knowing smile. Like all who live under a hot sun, it is a vague, meaningless answer, but it allows them to project their own fantasies onto it. It is sufficient. They chuckle, satisfied, and the conversation moves on. You have survived another round. The sweat on your back is cold. The wine flows more freely now. Titus has ordered the ratio changed. 1 part wine to 2 parts water. The atmosphere in the room is heating up. The carefully constructed masks of senatorial dignity are beginning to slip. The conversation becomes louder, the laughter more frequent and less controlled. A new form of entertainment is brought in. Not musicians this time, but poets. 2 men, one old and wizened, the other young and handsome, are led into the center of the room. They are here to compete, to perform their latest verses and hope for the favor and the money of Titus. The old poet goes first. He recites a long, complex ode to the glory of Rome, filled with obscure mythological allusions and complex hexameters. It is technically brilliant, but dry and academic. The guests grow restless. They are not in the mood for a lecture. They begin to whisper among themselves. Titus listens with a bored expression, tapping his finger on his goblet. Then, the young poet steps forward. He is cleverer. He understands his audience. He does not recite an epic. He delivers a series of short, biting epigrams, scandalous verses that mock prominent Romans who are pointedly not present at this dinner. He satirizes a famous general's toupee, a wealthy widow's affair with her stable boy, a rival politician's bad breath. The guests roar with laughter. This is what they want, malice.cruelty, the humiliation of their peers. The young poet is a sensation. He looks at Titus, his eyes shining with hope. Titus laughs along with the others. Brilliant, he exclaims. A sharp tongue, a true Roman wit. He snaps his fingers. A slave approaches with a small, heavy purse. A token of my appreciation, Titus says, tossing the purse to the young poet. The poet catches it, his face flooding with relief and gratitude. He has won. His career is made. Titus then turns his cold eyes to the old poet, who stands defeated and humiliated. As for you, old man, Titus says, his voice suddenly hard, your verses are as stale as last week's bread. They have no place at my table. He makes another gesture. The Lorari step forward once again. No, please, Dominus, the old poet begins, his face ashen with fear. I am a patron of the arts, Titus says, a cruel smirk on his face. And it is my duty to prune the garden of its weeds. A good flogging might inspire you to write something with a bit more passion. The old man is dragged from the room. The whip speaks again. The young poet clutches his purse of silver, his face a mixture of triumph and terror. He has pleased the beast today, but he has seen what happens to those who do not. You watch this unfold, and you feel a profound, soul-deep chill that has nothing to do with the temperature. You understand the precariousness of everyone in this room. Their wealth, their status, their very lives depend on the whims of one man. They are all, in their own way, as much his slaves as the boy who serves the wine, or the poet who is now screaming in the courtyard. They are just wearing more expensive chains. As the main course is cleared away, the atmosphere shifts again. The descent into the madness Titus alluded to earlier is beginning. Slaves enter with bowls of perfumed water and towels, and the guests wash their hands again, a thin veneer of civilization over the bubbling cauldron of their appetites. The couches are cleared of food, and the drinking begins in earnest. Titus, now acting as the arbiter bibendi, or master of the drinking, declares a new ratio, 2 parts wine to 1 part water, a dangerously strong mixture. He then decrees the number of cups each guest must drain in a series of toasts. Toast to the emperor, toast to Rome, toast to the god Bacchus, and most importantly, toast to Titus himself. To refuse a toast is an unthinkable insult. You must drink. You force down the potent, syrupy wine, your head already beginning to swim. The room is hot and loud. The controlled wit of the earlier conversation has dissolved into boisterous shouting and slurred boasts. The senator, Varro, is now telling a long, rambling and obscene story, his toga slipping from his shoulder. And then, the doors to the triclinium are thrown open. A new procession of slaves enters. But these are not cooks or servers. They are chosen for their beauty, their youth, their exoticism. Boys from Greece, girls from Germania, dark-skinned dancers from Syria. They are the evening's final and ultimate entertainment. They are naked or clad in sheer, provocative silks. Their bodies are oiled, gleaming in the lamplight. They are here for one purpose: to be used. They are not participants. They are objects, extensions of the host's power, living demonstrations of his ability to purchase and command human flesh from every corner of the known world. The guests cheer. Their eyes are light with a raw, predatory lust. This is the orgy of legend, but it is not a celebration of shared pleasure. It is a display of consumption. The men at the table, your host, the senator, the ambitious politician, begin to call out to the slaves, grabbing at them as they pass, pulling them onto the couches. There is no question of consent. There is only the power of the master and the submission of the slave. A young Syrian dancer, her eyes wide with a terror she cannot hide, is pulled onto Varro's couch. He paws at her, his fat fingers bruising her skin, his wine-sour breath hot on her face. She endures it with a practiced, dead-eyed stillness. To resist would be to invite a punishment far worse than this degradation. You are frozen, a spectator at a scene of breathtaking depravity. Your modern sensibilities are screaming. You want to shout, to intervene, to stop this, but you are powerless. You are a guest in a predator's den, and to challenge the predator is to become the prey. Your silence is an act of self-preservation, but it feels like a betrayal of your own soul. A slave girl, a blonde goth who cannot be more than 16, is pushed towards your couch. She stumbles, her eyes darting around the room like a trapped animal, her face a pale mask of terror. She has been bathed and oiled, her long hair braided with pearls, but these adornments cannot hide the raw fear that radiates from her. She is a spoil of war, captured in a campaign on the Danube frontier. Her village burned, her family likely slaughtered. She has been stripped of her home, her freedom, her name, and now she is being stripped of her last possession, the sanctity of her own body. She stops beside your couch, her gaze fixed on the mosaic floor. She is waiting for your command, your touch. The system demands your participation. To ignore her would be an act of supreme weirdness, a social misstep that would draw unwanted attention. It would be interpreted not as an act of compassion, but as an insult to Titus's generosity. He has provided this gift for your pleasure. To refuse it is to declare his gift unworthy. In this room, such a declaration could be fatal. The other men are already engaged. The sounds of their crude lust fill the room, a grotesque chorus beneath the frantic music of the lyre. Varro has torn the silk from the Syrian dancer and is laughing as she flinches from his touch. Even the young, ambitious politician, who earlier seemed so controlled, has pulled a Greek boy onto his lap, his face flushed with wine and power. You are trapped. Every instinct in your modern soul screams for you to protect this girl, to tell her to stand behind you, to shield her from this horror. But you are not a hero from a movie. You are a powerless merchant on a knife's edge. An act of defiance would not save her. It would condemn both of you. Titus would see it as a challenge to his authority. He would have you thrown out, or worse, the girl would be punished for your insolence, her failure to please a guest rectified with a brutality you cannot bear to imagine. Your mind races, searching for a third option, a path between monstrous participation and suicidal defiance. You have to play the part. You have to appear to be the Roman your host expects you to be. You reach out, your hand trembling. You do not grab her. You lightly touch her arm. The skin is cold, clammy with fear. Come, you say, your voice a dry rasp. Sit. She flinches at your touch, but obeys, perching on the edge of your couch. She keeps her eyes downcast, her body rigid, braced for the inevitable violation. You can feel the violent tremors running through her frame. You pour a cup of wine, the watered-down mixture from earlier in the evening, not the potent brew they are drinking now. You offer it to her. She looks up, her blue eyes wide with confusion. This is not what she expected. She expected to be grabbed, to be used. She has been trained for that. She has not been trained for this small, inexplicable act of courtesy. She hesitates, her eyes darting towards Titus at the head couch, as if seeking permission. Drink, you say softly, your voice barely a whisper. It is just wine. Titus is otherwise engaged, laughing at some crude joke. But you know his attention is like the sun. It can swing around and scorch you at any moment. You must be quick. You must make this look like part of the game. The girl takes the cup, her fingers brushing yours. Her hand is ice cold. She takes a tiny, hesitant sip. You need to create a performance, a pantomime of proprietorship that satisfies the room's expectations without participating in its horror. You place your hand on her shoulder, a gesture that, to a casual observer, looks like an act of possession. But your touch is light. You are not grabbing, you are shielding. You lean in close, as if to whisper something lewd in her ear. The smell of her fear is a physical thing, a sour, sharp scent beneath the perfumed oil. Instead of whispering an obscenity, you say, in a low voice, "What is your name?" She starts, her body going rigid. She clearly expects a trick. Slaves are often punished for speaking unless spoken to, and certainly for offering their real names. I'm not permitted to," she stammers, her Latin thick with a guttural Germanic accent. "Tell me," you insist, your voice still a whisper. "It is safe." She looks at you, her eyes searching your face for a long, agonizing moment. She sees something there she does not understand. Not kindness, perhaps, but an absence of the casual cruelty she sees everywhere else. "Gisela," she whispers, the name a ghost on her lips. It is a small thing, a name, but in this room, where she is an object, a thing, the acknowledgement of her name is a revolutionary act. It is a flicker of humanity in a vortex of degradation. You see a tear trace a path through the oil on her cheek. She quickly wipes it away, terrified of showing any emotion that might displease you. "Gisela," you repeat softly, "just be still. Be quiet, follow my lead. I will not harm you." You recline back on the couch, keeping your arm around her, maintaining the illusion of a Roman master and his new plaything. To the rest of the room, it appears you have claimed your prize and are proceeding at your own leisurely pace. The deception seems to be working. The focus of the room is elsewhere. The drinking has now reached a fever pitch. Titus, in a fit of drunken bravado, declares that the wine will now be served neat. The last vestiges of restraint evaporate. The polite veneer of Roman civilization is stripped away, revealing the raw, violent core beneath. A man on the far couch, a wealthy landowner, gets into a loud, slurred argument with his neighbor over the price of Spanish olives. The argument escalates with terrifying speed. Insults are thrown, accusations of cheating, questions of ancestry. The landowner, his face purple with rage, struggles to his feet. He grabs a heavy silver serving dish and hurls it at his opponent. The dish misses, striking a slave who is clearing the table, felling him with a sickening crack. The slave lies on the floor, motionless, a dark pool of blood spreading from his head onto the pristine mosaic. No one rushes to help the slave. No one expresses concern. His body is simply an obstacle, a piece of broken furniture. The argument between the two nobles continues, their friends trying to restrain them. Titus watches this display with the detached amusement of a man watching a dogfight he has arranged. This chaos is part of the entertainment. It is a demonstration of his power. His house is a place where the normal rules do not apply, where even senators can be reduced to brawling animals, all under his watchful eye. He claps his hands again, this time with a sharp, impatient rhythm. The Larari reappear. They do not attend to the brawling nobles. They efficiently, dispassionately, drag the body of the unconscious slave from the room. Another slave appears with a bucket of water and a sponge and begins to scrub the blood from the floor. The party continues around this grim domestic scene, as if nothing has happened. You hold Gisela closer, your own body a shield. She is trembling violently, her face buried in your shoulder. Your performance of possession has become an act of genuine protection. The danger in this room is escalating exponentially. The wine has unlocked the guest's most brutish impulses. A misplaced word, a perceived slight, could now easily lead to bloodshed. You know you must get out. To stay is to risk being swept up in the escalating violence. But leaving a Roman convivium before the host dismisses the guests is a grave, almost unforgivable insult. It implies that his hospitality is lacking, his entertainment boring. It is a direct challenge to his ego, and Titus is not a man whose ego can be safely challenged. You are trapped, forced to ride out this storm of drunken, violent egos. Your only strategy is to make yourself as small and unnoticeable as possible. You continue your pantomime. You pour more wine for Gisela, encouraging her to drink, hoping it might dull the sharp edges of her terror. You feed her a piece of fruit from the table, an act that looks proprietary to the others, but is in reality an attempt to give her some small measure of comfort. The night wears on, a blur of shouting, breaking crockery, and the coarse laughter of powerful men indulging their worst instincts. The air grows thick and hot, heavy with the smell of spilled wine, sweat, and vomit. One of the guests, the young politician, has passed out on his couch, his mouth open, snoring loudly. Varro, the senator, has cornered two slave boys in a darkened alcove, his grunts of effort a sickening soundtrack to the chaos. Titus sits at the head of it all, a drunken, malevolent Buddha, his eyes gleaming with satisfaction. He has orchestrated this entire symphony of degradation. It is the ultimate expression of his power, the ability to force others to shed their humanity at his command. He turns his heavy-lidded gaze towards you. Your heart freezes. He has noticed your relative quiet, your strange, almost gentle treatment of the slave girl. He sees it not as compassion, but as a lack of enthusiastic participation, and in his world, a lack of enthusiasm is a form of dissent. He pushes himself up, his movements unsteady but still full of menace. He begins to walk towards your couch. The room seems to quiet slightly as the guests sense that the host is on the move, that a new entertainment is about to begin, with you as the star. Our merchant is a quiet man, Titus slurs, his voice dangerously soft as he looms over you. Are you not enjoying my party? Is my wine not to your taste? Is the girl not to your liking? He reaches down and grabs Gisella's hair, yanking her head back. She cries out, a thin whimper of pain. She is a fine specimen, is she not? Fresh from the forests of Germania. Wild, untamed. Perhaps she requires a firmer hand. This is the ultimate test. He is directly challenging you, goading you. He wants to see you break. He wants to see you debase this girl to prove your loyalty to his world, to his rules. He wants you to become a monster, just like him. You look up at his face, at the cruel, wine-soaked smirk, at the deadness in his eyes. You look at Gisella's face, at the tears streaming down her cheeks, at the pure terror that has erased every other expression. In this moment, the fear for your own survival is eclipsed by a surge of something else, a hot, clean rage. You have been a silent, complicit observer all night. You have played the game, but there is a line, and Titus has just crossed it. You slowly, deliberately, remove your arm from around Gisella. You look Titus directly in the eye. You do not speak, you simply meet his gaze. It is a terrifying, insane gamble. In this world of shouted commands and brutal force, your silent, unwavering defiance is the most unexpected, and therefore the most powerful weapon you have. The smirk on Titus's face wavers. He is confused. He expected you to grovel, to apologize, to immediately prove your masculinity by brutalizing the girl. He did not expect this quiet, immovable object. He is a predator, and predators are unsettled by prey that does not act like prey. He tightens his grip on Gisella's hair, and she cries out again. I asked you a question, merchant, he hisses, his face darkening. Are you not enjoying yourself? Before you can answer, before the situation can escalate to a point of no return, a new voice cuts through the tension. He is simply a man of quiet tastes, Titus, unlike you and I. The voice is calm, cultured, and carries an authority that instantly silences the room. It comes from the head couch, a man who has been quiet for most of an evening, observing the chaos with an air of detached, cynical amusement, has finally spoken. He is older than Titus, leaner, with a face that is a roadmap of old political battles. This is Senator Albinus, a man whose family name was ancient when Rome was still a republic, a man whose quiet influence is said to rival that of the emperor himself. Titus releases Gisella's hair as if it has suddenly become red hot. He turns to Albinus, his drunken bluster instantly deflating, replaced by a fawning deference. Senator Albinus, I did not mean to disturb you. I was merely encouraging our guest to partake more fully. Albinus takes a slow sip of his wine. Some men find their pleasure in the vintage, Titus, others in the conversation. Not all of us require the sound of a whip or the breaking of furniture to feel alive. His words are soft, but they are a devastating critique of Titus's entire evening. He is dismissing Titus's display of power as vulgar, as new money, as deeply unsophisticated. He looks over at you, his old, intelligent eyes holding yours for a brief, significant moment. The merchant shows admirable restraint, he says. A rare quality in this city. With that, he has saved you. He has not just defended you, he has reframed your quietness, not as weakness, but as a sign of superior character. He has turned Titus's own game of status against him. Titus is defeated, he knows it. To challenge Albinus is unthinkable. He forces a laugh, a harsh, ugly sound. Of course, Senator. A jest, merely a jest. He retreats back to his couch, his face a thunderous mask of rage and humiliation. He has lost face in his own home, in front of his own sycophants. You have survived, but you have also made a powerful and vindictive enemy. And you have attracted the attention of a man far more powerful and far more dangerous than Titus. Albinus did not save you out of kindness. Men like him do nothing without a reason. He has a purpose for you. You have simply traded one danger for another, A loud, brutish predator for a quiet, cunning one. The party is broken. The energy has gone out of the room. Albinus's quiet rebuke has shattered the illusion of consequence-free debauchery. Guests begin to make their excuses. The spell is broken. Titus, his face dark, rises and formally dismisses the party. It is over. You are free to go. As you stand, your legs unsteady, Gisela looks at you, her face a swirl of confusion, fear, and something else, something you dare not name. Gratitude. You have not saved her from her fate. She is still Titus's property. But for one night, you have stood between her and the abyss. You make your way out of the triclinium, through the peristyle garden, and into the atrium. You dare not look back. You can feel Titus's eyes on you, a promise of future retribution. As you wait for a slave to bring your cloak, a figure emerges from the shadows beside you. It is Senator Albinus. A word merchant, he says, his voice low. He gestures you to a quiet corner, away from the departing guests. You have a steady nerve, the senator says, his eyes studying you intently. And you have made a dangerous enemy tonight. Titus is a viper. He will not forget this humiliation. I have you to thank for my safety, Senator, you say, your voice hoarse. Do not thank me, Albinus says, his voice cold. Gratitude is a useless currency. I have an interest in men who can stand firm in the face of brutes like Titus. And I have an interest in men who have traveled the east. We will speak again soon. He gives you a final, calculating look, and then melts back into the crowd. It was not a request, it was a command. You have been recruited into a game far larger and more deadly than you can possibly imagine. A slave hands you your cloak. You wrap it around yourself, the simple wool a comforting reality after the nightmare of silks and perfumes. You step out of the villa, out of the circle of torchlight, and into the cool, clean darkness of the Italian night. The music has stopped. The shouting has ceased. The only sound is the chirping of crickets and the distant, reassuring sound of your own breathing. You have survived the night at a Roman orgy, but you have not escaped. You have walked into a gilded cage and emerged into a much larger and far more dangerous one. The night is over, but your ordeal in Rome has just begun. The walk away from the villa is a journey from one reality to another. Each step down the torchlit path, away from the marble walls and the scent of roses, feels like ascending from a deep, feverish dream. The cool night air is a balm on your skin, a clean shock that helps to scour the cloying atmosphere of wine and fear from your lungs. The silence of the countryside, broken only by the chirping of crickets and the rustle of leaves in the night breeze, is so profound it feels like a physical presence, a welcome weight that presses out the memory of the shouting, the music, and the screams. You are alone on the path. The other guests, the senators and wealthy landowners, have been whisked away in litters, carried by teams of powerful slaves, their torch-bearing entourages disappearing down the hill, like constellations of frightened stars. You, the humble merchant, are on foot. This in itself is a statement of your status, a vulnerability you feel with every rustle in the undergrowth. Every shadow seems to hold a threat, a robber, a wild animal, or worse, one of Titus's men sent to exact a swift, anonymous revenge. The fear from the triclinium has followed you out here, changing its shape from a social anxiety to a primal dread. Your mind is a chaotic swirl of images, a nauseating slideshow of the evening's events, the terrified eyes of the first slave boy, the wet crack of the whip. His words are soft, but they are a devastating critique of Titus's entire evening. He is dismissing Titus's display of power as vulgar, as new money, as deeply unsophisticated. He looks over at you, his old, intelligent eyes holding yours for a brief, significant moment. The merchant shows admirable restraint, he says. A rare quality in this city. With that, he has saved you. He has not just defended you, he has reframed your quietness, not as weakness, but as a sign of superior character. He has turned Titus's own game of status against him. Titus is defeated, he knows it. To challenge Albinus is unthinkable. He forces a laugh, a harsh, ugly sound. Of course, Senator. A jest, merely a jest. He retreats back to his couch, his face a thunderous mask of rage and humiliation. He has lost face in his own home, in front of his own sycophants. You have survived, but you have also made a powerful and vindictive enemy. And you have attracted the attention of a man far more powerful and far more dangerous than Titus. Albinus did not save you out of kindness. Men like him do nothing without a reason. He has a purpose for you. You have simply traded one danger for another, a loud, brutish predator for a quiet, cunning one. The party is broken. The energy has gone out of the room. Albinus's quiet rebuke has shattered the illusion of consequence-free debauchery. Guests begin to make their excuses. The spell is broken. Titus, his face dark, rises and formally dismisses the party. It is over. You are free to go. As you stand, your legs unsteady, Gisela looks at you, her face a swirl of confusion, fear, and something else, something you dare not name. Gratitude. You have not saved her from her fate. She is still Titus's property. But for one night, you have stood between her and the abyss. You make your way out of the triclinium, through the peristyle garden, and into the atrium. You dare not look back. You can feel Titus's eyes on you, a promise of future retribution. As you wait for a slave to bring your cloak, a figure emerges from the shadows beside you. It is Senator Albinus. A word merchant, he says, his voice low. He gestures you to a quiet corner, away from the departing guests. You have a steady nerve, the senator says, his eyes studying you intently. And you have made a dangerous enemy tonight. Titus is a viper. He will not forget this humiliation. I have you to thank for my safety, Senator, you say, your voice hoarse. Do not thank me, Albinus says, his voice cold. Gratitude is a useless currency. I have an interest in men who can stand firm in the face of brutes like Titus. And I have an interest in men who have traveled the East. We will speak again soon. He gives you a final, calculating look, and then melts back into the crowd. It was not a request, it was a command. You have been recruited into a game far larger and more deadly than you can possibly imagine. A slave hands you your cloak. You wrap it around yourself, the simple wool a comforting reality after the nightmare of silks and perfumes. You step out of the villa, out of the circle of torchlight, and into the cool, clean darkness of the Italian night. The music has stopped. The shouting has ceased. The only sound is the chirping of crickets and the distant, reassuring sound of your own breathing. You have survived the night at a Roman orgy, but you have not escaped. You have walked into a gilded cage and emerged into a much larger and far more dangerous one. The night is over, but your ordeal in Rome has just begun. The walk away from the villa is a journey from one reality to another. Each step down the torchlit path, away from the marble walls and the scent of roses, feels like ascending from a deep, feverish dream. The cool night air is a balm on your skin, a clean shock that helps to scour the cloying atmosphere of wine and fear from your lungs. The silence of the countryside, broken only by the chirping of crickets and the rustle of leaves in the night breeze, is so profound it feels like a physical presence, a welcome weight that presses out the memory of the shouting, the music, and the screams. You are alone on the path. The other guests, the senators and wealthy landowners, have been whisked away in litters, carried by teams of powerful slaves, their torch-bearing entourages disappearing down the hill, like constellations of frightened stars. You, the humble merchant, are on foot. This in itself is a statement of your status, a vulnerability you feel with every rustle in the undergrowth. Every shadow seems to hold a threat, a robber, a wild animal, or worse, one of Titus's men sent to exact a swift, anonymous revenge. The fear from the triclinium has followed you out here, changing its shape from a social anxiety to a primal dread. Your mind is a chaotic swirl of images, a nauseating slideshow of the evening's events. The terrified eyes of the first slave boy, the wet crack of the whip, the old poet's face, crumbling in humiliation, the dead-eyed stare of the Syrian dancer, and Gisela. Her name is a sharp, painful splinter in your memory. You see her face, yanked back by the hair, her eyes wide with a terror that transcended her own fate and became a reflection of the entire rotten system. You acted. You did something. But what in the end did you accomplish? You delayed her violation for a few hours. You showed her a flicker of humanity in a world determined to strip it from her. But when the sun rises, she will still be Titus's property. Her life will still be a hell of someone else's making. And your interference may have only made it worse. Titus, denied his public sport with you, might now take out his frustrated rage on her in private, in ways that are even more terrible. The thought makes you sick to your stomach. You gag, leaning against an olive tree, and retch onto the dry earth. There is nothing in your stomach but sour, watered wine. You have not been a hero. You have been a fool. You have thrown a pebble at a tidal wave, and in doing so, have painted a target on your own back and potentially endangered the very person you sought to protect. This is the brutal math of this world. Any action has a consequence, and compassion is often the most expensive action of all. As you continue your walk, the initial relief of escape begins to curdle into a more complex and terrifying understanding. Senator Albinus. His intervention was not an act of mercy. It was an act of acquisition. He did not save you. He claimed you. In the predatory ecosystem of Rome, he saw a tool lying on the ground, and he picked it up. You are now his tool. You do not know your purpose. You do not know his plans, but you know with absolute certainty that his protection comes with a price. A man like Albinus does not invest without expecting a return. What does he want? Your knowledge of the East? Your shipping contacts? Are you to be a spy in the mercantile world, feeding him information about his rivals? Or is it something more dangerous? Does he need a man with a steady nerve? A man who did not flinch in the face of Titus's brutish power for a task that requires a quiet, disposable courage? The possibilities are endless, and each one is more terrifying than the last. You have escaped the chaotic, drunken violence of the lion's den, only to find yourself in the cold, calculating coils of the serpent. Your lodgings are in a modest inn on the outskirts of the city, a place for merchants and travelers who cannot afford the grander establishments closer to the forum. As you approach, the sounds of the night change again. The rural quiet gives way to the low, constant hum of the city, the distant barking of dogs, the rumble of a cart defying the nighttime wagon ban, the faint shouts of a drunken patrol. The inn is a squat, timber frame building, its doorway marked by a single smoky lantern. The innkeeper, a grizzled ex-legionary with a scarred face and one good eye, grunts a greeting as you enter. He has seen 1,000 men like you come and go. Men with worry in their eyes and secrets in their baggage. He doesn't care. As long as you pay, you're welcome to your troubles. Your room is a small, windowless cubicle, containing little more than a straw-filled mattress on a wooden frame and a clay water pitcher. The air is stale and smells of sweat and cheap wine, but after the perfumed prison of Titus's villa, it feels like a sanctuary. The simple, unadorned wooden door with its crude iron bolt feels more secure than all the marble walls you left behind. You bolt the door. You stand in the center of the small dark room, your heart still hammering. Sleep is an impossible dream. Your mind is on fire. You strip off your toga, the symbol of your fragile status, and let it fall to the floor. You splash your face with the cool, slightly brackish water from the pitcher, trying to wash away the feeling of Titus's gaze, the memory of Albinus's cold, calculating eyes. You lie down on the mattress. The straw rustles and pricks at your skin. It is a world away from the plush cushions of the triclinium, and you have never been more grateful for discomfort. The luxury of that world was a lie. A beautiful, poisonous flower growing on a dung heap of human misery. This simple, honest squalor feels more real, more true, but there is no escape from your thoughts. You are now entangled in the affairs of two powerful Roman senators. Titus, a man of immense wealth and brutish cruelty, now sees you as a personal insult that must be erased. His power is overt. It is the power of the whip, the fist, the hired blade in a dark alley. He will seek to crush you directly. Albinus is the greater danger. His power is subtle, patient, and far more extensive. He is a master of the long game. He will not crush you. He will use you. He will wrap you in obligations, in favors, in secrets, until you are so enmeshed in his webs that escape is impossible. You will become a pawn in his vast, invisible wars. And pawns, as you well know, are the first pieces to be sacrificed. You stare up into the darkness of your small room, and you see the chessboard. You are a single, insignificant piece caught between two powerful players. Every move you make will be watched. Every decision will have consequences that ripple through the highest echelons of Roman power. Your simple life as a merchant is over. You came to Rome seeking profit, a new trade route, a lucrative contract. You have found something else entirely. You have found danger and a terrifying, unwanted purpose. You think again of Gisella, her terrified blue eyes, the feel of her trembling body under your hand. You tell yourself that you did what you could, that any other action would have been worse for both of you. But the self-justification feels hollow. The truth is, you used her too. You used her as a shield, a prop in your own desperate performance of survival. You participated in her objectification, albeit in a gentle way. You are not clean. No one who touches that world can remain clean. A sound from the corridor outside your door makes you freeze. The soft scrape of a sandal on the wooden floor. You hold your breath, your muscles tensing. Is it a servant of the inn? Or is it someone else? One of Titus's men, sent to finish the business of the evening. The footsteps pause outside your door. You can hear the faint sound of breathing. Your heart feels like it is trying to beat its way out of your chest. You stare at the iron bolt, a laughably inadequate defense against a determined killer. The moments stretch into an eternity. The only sound is the frantic drumming of your own blood in your ears. Then the footsteps move on. A door creaks open further down the hall and closes. It was just another guest. You let out a breath you didn't realize you were holding, your body slumping back onto the mattress, slick with a cold sweat. This is your new reality. A world of shadows, of listening for footsteps in the night, of seeing threats around every corner. You have survived the orgy, but the orgy has not finished with you. It has followed you back here, into the dark, into your mind. And then another thought, even more chilling, takes root. What if the footsteps were not Titus's men? What if they were Albinus's? A quiet check to ensure his new acquisition was safely housed for the night. A subtle reminder that you are being watched. That you are no longer your own man. The thought is more terrifying than a blade in the dark. The threat of a quick death is fearsome, but the threat of a slow, controlled ownership of your soul is a horror of a different magnitude. You finally understand the true nature of the trap you are in. At Titus's party, the dangers were clear. The whip, the knife, the drunken rage. You could see the predators, but the world you have entered now, the world of Senator Albinus, is a world of quiet rooms, of whispered conversations, of secrets and obligations. It is a world where fealty is traded for security, and where the price of that security is your own will. You close your eyes, but the images remain, burned onto the inside of your eyelids. The splendor of the villa, the terror in the slave's eyes, the cold smile of Titus, the calculating gaze of Albinus. You have stumbled into the engine room of the Roman Empire, and you have seen how the gears work. They are greased with blood, wine, and fear. And you are now caught in the mechanism. Sleep, when it finally comes, is not a release. It is a descent into nightmares that are simply a continuation of the evening's reality. You are back in the triclinium, but this time, you are the one serving the wine, and every guest has the face of Titus. You are the poet, reciting verses to a silent, judging audience. You are the slave, scrubbing blood from the mosaic floor, the stains spreading no matter how hard you scrub. You wake with a start, your body drenched in sweat. The first grey light of dawn filtering through the cracks in the door. The city is beginning to stir. You can hear the distant clatter of market stalls being set up, the shouts of vendors. A new day in Rome has begun. For most, it is just another day of work, of trade, of life. For you, it is the first day of a new, dangerous existence. You have survived the night, but now you must find a way to survive the day, and all the days that will follow. As a marked man, a pawn in a game whose rules you are only just beginning to understand. The party is over, but the consequences have just begun. The morning is an accusation. The grey Roman light that seeps into your small room feels like a physical intrusion, stripping away the fragile sanctuary of the darkness. Every sound from the awakening city, the clatter of a mule's hoof on the cobblestones, the shrill cry of a street vendor hawking figs, the distant clang of a blacksmith's hammer, is a reminder that the world has not stopped, that the game you were unwillingly drafted into last night is already in motion. You rise from the straw mattress, your body a collection of aches. Your head throbs with the phantom pain of a hangover, a souvenir of the wine you were forced to drink. But the physical discomfort is nothing compared to the cold, hard knot of fear that has settled deep in your gut. Last night was a fever dream of torches and terror. Today, in the stark, unforgiving light of day, the consequences feel terrifyingly real. You need to think. You need a plan. Your first instinct, a primal urge that screams from the deepest part of your modern soul, is to run, to pack your meager belongings, settle your bill with the one-eyed innkeeper, and flee the city. You could take the Via Appia south to Brundisium, find a ship, and lose yourself in the teeming ports of Greece or Egypt. Disappear, become a ghost. But even as the thought forms, you know it is a fantasy. You are not an anonymous traveler anymore. You are the quiet merchant who attracted the attention of two of Rome's most powerful men. Senator Albinus did not save you only to let you vanish. His reach is as long as the empire itself. His agents would be in every port, his eyes in every provincial governor's office. To run would be to confirm your guilt in some unknown crime, to mark yourself as a fugitive. And what of Titus? His anger is less systematic but more volatile. His vengeance would be simpler. A hired cutthroat on the road, a random robbery that leaves you bleeding in a ditch. There is no escape. The city of Rome, which yesterday seemed like a world of opportunity, has become a cage. You splash your face with the stale water from the pitcher. As you look at your reflection in the murky surface, the face staring back is that of a stranger. It is the face of a hunted man. There is a sharp, authoritative knock at your door. Your blood runs cold, you freeze, your mind racing. It's too soon. Titus, seeking immediate revenge. Albinus calling in his debt already. You look around your tiny room for a weapon. A clay pitcher, a wooden stool. Pathetic defenses against the brutal reality of Roman power. The knock comes again, harder this time. A message for the merchant Gaius, a voice calls out, rough and impatient. Gaius, they know your name. Of course they do. Your hand trembling, you unbolt the door and open it a crack. Standing in the dim corridor is a man dressed in the simple, functional tunic of a courier, but he is built like a gladiator. His arms thick with muscle, his face a mask of bored indifference. He is clearly more than a simple messenger. He looks you up and down, his gaze lingering for a moment on your state of undress, a flicker of contempt in his eyes. He thrusts a small rolled scroll into your hand. It is tied with a simple cord, but sealed with a blob of dark wax, impressed with a signet ring. From the Senator Albinus, the courier grunts. You are to read it. Now, he does not leave. He leans against the doorframe, crossing his powerful arms, making it clear that he is here to ensure you comply. You close the door just enough for privacy and unroll the scroll. The parchment is of the highest quality, smooth and pale. The writing is elegant, precise, the work of a highly educated scribe. The message is brief and utterly chilling. Gaius, I trust you slept well. The city can be overwhelming for newcomers. I have taken the liberty of securing you more suitable accommodations. A small apartment in a property I own on the Aventine Hill. It is quiet, secure, and more befitting a man of your restraint. My man will escort you. Gather your things, do not delay. We will speak this evening. Albinus, it is not an invitation. It is a command, wrapped in the thinnest possible veil of courtesy. He is moving you. He is taking you out of this anonymous inn and placing you in a cage of his own making. A quiet, secure apartment. Secure for whom? For you or for his ability to watch you? On the Aventine Hill, a respectable but not ostentatious neighborhood, where you will be surrounded by his clients, his spies, his network. The message is a masterclass in subtle intimidation. He is demonstrating the ease with which he can find you, the power he has to alter your life with a simple note. He is isolating you, cutting you off from the relative anonymity of this inn, and making you entirely dependent on his generosity. Your mind spins. To refuse is impossible. The man mountain outside your door is not here to negotiate. To accept is to walk willingly into the serpent's embrace. You have no choice. You are already his. You quickly dress, your fingers clumsy with haste and dread. You gather your few belongings, a spare tunic, your ledger book, a small purse of coins, and stuff them into a leather satchel. The ledger. You hesitate. It contains the details of your business, your contacts in the East, your shipping manifests. It is the sum of your life's work. In Albinus's hands, it could be a valuable tool, or it could be a weapon used against you. You have no choice but to take it. Leaving it would be even more suspicious. You open the door. The courier looks at you, unimpressed, and jerks his head down the corridor. Come, you follow him out of the inn. The morning sun hits you, and you have to shield your eyes. The street is a chaotic torrent of humanity. Senators in their litters, merchants shouting over their wares, beggars with missing limbs pleading for a coin, filthy children darting through the crowd. The air is thick with the smells of baking bread, rotting garbage, and unwashed bodies. It is the vibrant, brutal, beating heart of the world, and you are moving through it like a ghost, a prisoner on an invisible leash. The courier leads you through the winding streets, his broad shoulders clearing a path through the throng. You climb the long slope of the Aventine Hill. The air grows cleaner here, the noise of the city fading. The buildings are larger, the homes of the respectable, wealthy middle class, set behind high walls. He stops before a handsome three-story building, an insular, but one of far better quality than the teetering tenements of the lower city. The door is thick wood, reinforced with iron. The courier unlocks it and leads you up a narrow stone staircase. The apartment is on the top floor. It is small, but it is clean and well appointed. There is a proper bed with a wool mattress, a small table and 2 chairs, and a shuttered window that looks out over the rooftops of Rome. Compared to your room at the inn, it is luxury, but it is a gilded cage. You know, without having to look, that the neighbors are his people. The shopkeeper on the ground floor, the family across the hall, they will all report your comings and goings to their patron. The senator provides for his friends, the courier says, the word friends dripping with irony. Food will be brought. Do not leave the apartment. The senator will send for you when he is ready. He turns and leaves, the heavy bolt of the door sliding shut from the outside with a deafening final thud. You are locked in. The silence of the apartment is absolute. You walk to the window and push open the heavy wooden shutters. You look out at the sprawling, magnificent, terrifying city. From here, you can see the glint of the sun on the golden roof of the Temple of Jupiter on the Capitoline Hill. You can see the dark green swathe of the Campus Martius. You can see the smoke rising from 1,000 kitchen fires and temple altars. It is the greatest city in the world, the center of all power, and you are its prisoner. Hours pass. The sun creeps across the sky. Your hunger has returned, but you have no appetite. A slave arrives midday, unlocking the door to leave a simple meal of bread, cheese, and olives, and a pitcher of wine. He does not speak to you. He does not meet your eye. He leaves, and the door is bolted once more. You eat mechanically, your mind racing, trying to piece together a strategy from the fragments of your fear. What does Albinus want? Why you? Was it truly just your steady nerve? Or did he see something else in you? Something from your past, some connection you are unaware of? Or is it simpler? Are you just a convenient pawn? A man with no powerful family in Rome, no connections? Someone who can be used and discarded with no repercussions? The long afternoon shadows stretch across the floor. Your confinement is a form of psychological warfare. He is letting you wait. He is letting you stew in your own fear, letting you understand the totality of his control over your life. By the time he sends for you, you will be so desperate for answers, so grateful for any scrap of information, that you will be pliable, ready to be molded to his purpose. As dusk falls, the courier returns. Once again, the door is unbolted. The senator will see you now, he grunts. You follow him back into the streets. The evening crowds are thinning. The torches are being lit. He does not lead you to a grand villa like Titus's. He leads you to a surprisingly modest, old-fashioned house, tucked away on a quiet side street. This is the house of a man who does not need to advertise his power. His power is so absolute that it is invisible. You are led into a small, quiet room, a study. The walls are lined not with garish frescoes, but with scrolls, thousands of them, neatly stacked in wooden cubbyholes. The room smells of old parchment, leather, and cedarwood. This is an archive. This is a library of secrets. This is the source of Albinus's power. Albinus is sitting behind a simple wooden desk. He is not wearing the formal toga of a senator, but a simple, comfortable tunic. He looks less like a powerful politician and more like a weary scholar, but his eyes, when they meet yours, are as sharp and intelligent as ever. Gaius, he says, his voice calm and even. Please sit. He gestures to the chair opposite him. Some wine? You shake your head. No, thank you, Senator. He nods as if he expected this. A wise choice. A clear head is needed for what we must discuss. He leans forward, his hands clasped on the desk. I will be direct, he says. I have a problem. A problem that you, I believe, are uniquely suited to solve. Titus is a part of this problem. He is a loud, vulgar, and increasingly dangerous fool. His appetites are outgrowing his sense of self-preservation. He aligns himself with dangerous factions, he makes reckless promises, and his greed threatens the stability of certain delicate arrangements that are vital to the health of the Republic. He uses the word republic with a cynical twist, a nod to the long-dead ideal that men like him now manipulate for their own ends. Titus must be removed, Albinus says, his voice dropping to a near whisper. The words hang in the air between you, cold and heavy as lead. Not killed. That would be messy and create a martyr. No, he must be ruined, publicly, completely, and irrevocably. His reputation must be shattered, his finances destroyed, his political alliances broken. He must be reduced to nothing. You stare at him, your mind struggling to process the enormity of what he is proposing. He wants you to help him destroy one of the most powerful men in Rome. Why me? You manage to ask, your voice a croak. Albinus leans back, a faint, cold smile on his lips. Several reasons. You are an outsider. You have no deep-rooted loyalties in this city. You are, for the moment, invisible. But most importantly, you have seen the East. Titus has extensive and highly illegal business dealings in Alexandria. He is using his grain contracts to smuggle other, more valuable goods. Spices, silks, exotic animals, and weapons sold to troublesome desert tribes that harass our legions. It is treason, but his ledgers are well hidden. The evidence is buried. He pauses, letting the weight of his words sink in. You, however, know those ports. You know those markets. You know the men who broker such deals. You speak the language. You can move in those circles in a way my own agents cannot. You can find the proof I need. It all clicks into place. Your entire life, your career, your knowledge. It was all a resume for a job you never applied for. He has not just chosen you at random. He has studied you. He knows who you are. The orgy was not a coincidence. It was an interview. A test to see if you had the nerve for the real work. And if I refuse, you ask, the words tasting of ash. Albinus's smile vanishes. His voice becomes as cold and hard as granite. Refusal is not an option, Gaius. Consider your situation. Titus believes you have insulted him. He will not rest until he sees you dead or disgraced. Without my protection, you will not survive a week. I am the only thing standing between you and his butchers. He lets that threat hang in the air. Furthermore, he continues, his voice softening again into a tone of false reason, if you do this for me, you will be rewarded. Handsomely, new contracts, prime shipping routes, the protection and patronage of a man who does not forget his friends. Your fortune will be made, your future secured. It is the classic Roman proposition, a threat wrapped in a promise, the stick in the carrot. He will either be your savior or your executioner. The choice is yours, but it is no choice at all. What do you need me to do? You ask, and with those words, you seal your fate. You are no longer a merchant, you are a spy, an agent in a silent, deadly war between two Roman titans. Albinus leans forward, his eyes gleaming in the lamplight. Excellent, he says. I knew you were a man of reason. Now, let us begin. Tell me everything you know about a man in Alexandria named Pothinus, a dealer in rare silks. As you begin to speak, to betray contacts, to dredge up memories of back-alley deals and whispered conversations from your past life, you feel the last vestiges of your old self dissolving. You have survived the night at the orgy, but the price of that survival is your soul. You are now a player in the great dirty game of Rome, and you know, with a chilling certainty, that very few players ever get to leave the board alive. The study becomes your new prison, a far more dangerous and complex cage than the locked apartment. For hours that stretch deep into the night, Albinus interrogates you. It is not a brutal questioning of fists and threats, but something far more invasive. It is a meticulous, surgical dissection of your mind, your memories, and your life's work. He is relentless. He sits behind his desk, a cup of wine untouched before him, his eyes sharp and focused, missing nothing. He forces you to dredge up every detail of your business in the East. You speak of Pothinus, the silk merchant in Alexandria, a man known for his discretion and his ability to procure items that had not passed through official customs. You describe the back room of his shop, smelling of camphor and exotic spices, where the real business was done. You recall the names of his ship captains, the routes they favored to avoid Roman patrols, the sigils they used on their cargo manifests to denote contraband. Every piece of information you give, every name you utter, feels like a betrayal. These were your business associates, men with whom you shared wine and broke bread. You operated in the grey areas of commerce, as did every merchant, but you were not a traitor. Now Albinus is forcing you to turn your knowledge into a weapon, to transform the mundane details of your trade into instruments of ruin. He makes you draw maps from memory, maps of the Alexandria harbour, marking the specific wharves where smugglers preferred to unload, maps of the city's labyrinthine market district, marking the locations of warehouses owned by men allied with Titus. He has scribes in the room, silent figures in the corner, who copy down your every word, their styluses scratching on wax tablets, creating a permanent record of your forced confession. You learn the true extent of his network. When you mention a name, a ship, or a warehouse, he will often send a scribe from the room with a quiet command. Sometimes, the scribe returns minutes later with a scroll, which Albinus reads with a critical eye. He is cross-referencing your information in real time. He already knows most of what you are telling him. He is not just gathering intelligence, he is testing your honesty, your memory, your utility. He is calibrating you as his new instrument. You tell me Pothinus uses the harbour master's cousin to falsify his cargo logs, Albinus says, his eyes boring into you. My sources say the cousin was replaced 2 months ago after a gambling indiscretion. The new man is one of ours. Is your information out of date, Gaius? Or are you holding back? The question is a stiletto slid quietly between your ribs. You backtrack, your mind racing. You recall a piece of dockside gossip you had dismissed as irrelevant. The cousin was replaced. Yes, Senator. But the system remains. The new harbour master, I heard, is even more expensive, but just as accommodating. The bribes simply go to a different purse. Albinus allows a small, cold smile. Good, very good. Details matter, Gaius. Details are the bricks with which we will build Titus's tomb. The interrogation lasts until the first hint of dawn is lightening the sky. You are exhausted, your throat raw from speaking, your mind hollowed out. You have given him everything. Your life's work, your knowledge, your secrets. They are all his now, to be weaponized as he sees fit. You have done well, Albinus says finally, standing up. You have confirmed much, and you have filled in certain gaps in our tapestry. But this is only the beginning. Knowledge is not proof. We need evidence that will stand up in the Senate. Evidence that will turn Titus's allies against him. We need his ledgers. He walks over to a large, detailed map of Rome that hangs on one wall. Titus is arrogant, but he is not a fool. His primary business records are kept at his villa, under constant guard. An impenetrable fortress, but he keeps a second set of ledgers. A private record of his illegal transactions, his treasonous dealings. These he keeps somewhere even more secure, a place he believes no one would ever dare to search. He taps a location on the map. The Temple of Vesta. You stare at him, uncomprehending. The Temple of Vesta, the sacred heart of Rome, home to the Vestal Virgins, and the eternal flame that guaranteed the city's survival. It was one of the holiest sites in the world. It was also used as a state archive, and for the very wealthy and powerful, a secure repository. Wills, treaties, and sensitive financial documents were often entrusted to the care of the Vestals, whose sanctity and incorruptibility were thought to place the documents beyond the reach of thieves and political rivals. His private ledgers are deposited in the temple vaults, Albinus confirms, under the sacred protection of the goddess herself. To break into that vault would be an act of sacrilege so profound, it would mean immediate execution. No sane man would attempt it. He turns to look at you, and you finally understand. The full, horrifying scope of his plan is laid bare. He believes his secrets are safe there, Albinus says, his voice a quiet whisper of pure conspiracy. But the chief Vestal, Flavia, is a woman of great piety. She is also a woman who believes Titus's decadence and his disrespect for the gods are a cancer on our city. She has, let it be known to me, that if proof of his treason were to be found, she would feel it her religious duty to bring it to the attention of the Senate, regardless of the sacred trust. He is not going to break into the temple. He is going to manipulate the high priestess herself into breaking her own sacred vows. But to do that, she needs a reason. She needs to know exactly what she is looking for. The ledgers are stored in sealed wooden chests, Albinus continues, each marked with the owner's family seal. There are thousands of chests in that vault. Flavia cannot simply order a search on a whim. That would expose her and me. She needs to know which chest to open. She needs the specific seal, the specific location within the vault. He walks back to his desk and looks at you. Only a handful of Titus's most trusted men have that information. His personal scribe, a freedman named Lycomedes, his financial manager, a Greek named Sosigenes, and the captain of the ship that brings his most valuable illegal cargo from Alexandria to Ostia, a man named Hanno. The pieces click together in your mind, a terrifying, intricate clockwork of conspiracy. Hanno, Albinus says, is due to arrive in Ostia, the port of Rome, in 3 days' time. He will be carrying a cargo of Egyptian grain. He will also be carrying a sealed dispatch for Titus, containing the updated inventory and the access seal for the ledgers in the temple. You, Gaius, are going to intercept that dispatch. The room seems to tilt. He wants you to go to the bustling, chaotic, and dangerous port of Ostia. He wants you to find a specific ship captain, a man in the employ of a powerful senator, and steal a sensitive document from him. It is a suicide mission. How? You stammer. I am a merchant, not a thief. You will be whatever I require you to be, Albinus says, his voice devoid of sympathy. You will not be alone. I have agents in Ostia. They will handle the physical aspects of the encounter. Your role is different. You know this world. You know the people. Hanno will be expecting to meet with one of Titus's usual contacts at a specific tavern to hand over the dispatch. My agents will ensure that contact is delayed. You will take his place. The plan is both brilliant and insane. You are to impersonate one of Titus's own men. You have to walk into a tavern in the roughest part of the port city, meet a hardened ship captain who has a standing army of sailors at his back, and convince him that you are his legitimate contact. You must trick him into handing over the most valuable document in this entire conspiracy. I don't know what to say, you whisper. I don't know the protocols, the passwords. You will be taught, Albinus says dismissively. He has an answer for everything. We have persuaded one of Titus's lower-level couriers to share his knowledge. You have 2 days to learn everything. The specific phrases, the gestures, the name of the tavern keeper's wife, every detail that will make your performance convincing. He is handing you a script, and you are to give the performance of your life. A performance where the consequence of a forgotten line is not bad reviews, but a knife in the ribs. My agents will be in the tavern, Albinus adds, sensing your terror. Watching. If things go wrong, they will intervene. They will create a distraction, a brawl, allowing you to slip away. But do not mistake this for a guarantee of safety. Their primary mission is not to protect you. It is to secure the dispatch. Your life is secondary to the success of the mission. The cold, brutal honesty of it is more terrifying than any threat. You are a tool, and if the tool breaks in the process of completing the job, it is an acceptable loss. You will leave for Ostia tomorrow at dawn, Albinus commands. My man will escort you. He will take you to a safe house where your education will begin. Do not fail me, Gaius. He turns away from you, back to his desk, a clear dismissal. The audience is over. Your fate is sealed. The hulking courier from the inn appears at the study door to escort you back to your gilded cage on the Aventine Hill. As you walk back through the now quiet streets of Rome, the sky beginning to lighten in the east, your mind is a maelstrom. Just 2 days ago, your greatest worry was the price of silk and the threat of pirates. Now, you're a key player in a plot to overthrow a senator, a reluctant spy about to embark on a mission where a single wrong word could get you killed. You think of the tavern in Ostia, a place you know from your legitimate travels. A noisy, dangerous place filled with hard-drinking sailors, cut-rate mercenaries, and spies from every faction in the city. And you are to walk in there, a lamb dressed in wolf's clothing, and steal a secret from the heart of the wolf pack. You are back in your locked apartment before the sun has fully risen. You collapse onto the bed, but sleep is a distant country. You are too afraid. You are afraid of Titus's vengeance, afraid of Albinus's cold-blooded machinations, afraid of the impossible task that lies before you. But beneath the fear, something else is stirring, a tiny hard kernel of something you haven't felt before. It is not courage, it is not hope. It is a grim, cold resolve. You have been pushed into a corner. You have been stripped of your old life. You are a pawn on a board of lethal predators. The game is rigged against you, but you are still on the board. And even a pawn can, with the right moves, change the outcome of the game. You are no longer just a merchant. You are no longer just a victim. You are an unwilling agent of chaos, and your survival now depends not on running from the game, but on learning to play it better than your enemies. You close your eyes and begin to rehearse. You practice the names, Hanno, Lycomedes, Sausagenes. You picture the smoky interior of the tavern. You begin to build your character, the man you will have to become to survive. A servant of Titus, a man of quiet confidence and hidden threats. You begin to build your mask. It is your only armor in the war to come, and the first battle will be fought in 3 days, in a dingy tavern by the sea. The 2 days that follow are a blur of fear and intense, focused education. You do not leave the locked apartment. The world is reduced to these 4 walls, the occasional appearance of a silent slave with food, and the grim presence of your tutor. He is not a man of letters like Albinus, but a creature from the city's underbelly, a lean, wiry ex-gladiator named Crixus, his face a roadmap of old blade scars, his eyes holding no light. He is one of Albinus's most trusted agents, a man who moves through the shadows of Rome as easily as a senator moves through the forum. Crixus is a brutal and effective teacher. He drills you relentlessly. He teaches you the slang of Titus's inner circle, the specific vulgar jokes they favor. He teaches you the subtle gesture, a tug on the earlobe, that signals a desire for a private word. He makes you memorize the layout of the tavern in Ostia, the drunken trident, drawing it from memory on a wax tablet until you can see it in your sleep. The main room, the 3 private alcoves, the back exit through the stinking kitchen. Most importantly, he teaches you how to be someone else. You are not Gaius the merchant, Crixus growls, his voice like gravel grinding together. Gaius is weak, he is afraid. He will get you killed. When you walk into that tavern, you are Decius. Decius is a freedman in Titus's service. He is arrogant. He is impatient. He believes everyone in that room is beneath him. He has done this 100 times. He is bored. Show me bored, Gaius. You practice. You walk around the small apartment, adopting a swagger, a curl of the lip. You practice the look of casual disdain Crixus demands. It feels like a child playing dress-up, a pathetic, transparent charade. No! Crixus barks, slapping you hard across the face. The blow is not malicious. It is corrective, like a master striking a dull tool. Your fear is leaking out of your eyes. Decius is not afraid. Decius is the one who brings fear. He works for Titus. He is untouchable. Believe it. Believe it, or Hanno will smell you coming from across the room. The journey to Ostia at dawn on the 3rd day is a silent, nerve-wracking affair. You travel not in a litter, but in a dusty, nondescript cart, hidden under a pile of canvas sacks. Crixus handling the reins. It is a slow, jolting ride, each mile bringing you closer to the moment of confrontation. The salt tang of the sea hits you long before you see the port, a smell that once meant commerce and profit, but now only smells of danger. Ostia is a chaotic, sprawling, violent city, a melting pot of every race and creed in the empire, all scrambling for a piece of the action. The harbour is a forest of masts. The streets are a river of sailors, merchants, soldiers, prostitutes, and thieves, all shouting in a dozen different languages. The drunken trident is exactly as Crixus described it, a low-beamed, smoke-filled dive smelling of stale wine, cheap perfume, and desperation. Crixus gives you your final instructions in a back alley behind the tavern. Hanno's ship, the Sea Serpent, docked an hour ago. He will be here soon. My men are inside, 2 at the bar, 1 by the door. They look like drunken sailors. They will not speak to you. They are your last resort. If it goes wrong, they will start a brawl. You will have seconds to get out the back. Do not hesitate. He hands you a small, sharp knife, its blade thin and wicked. For emergencies, he says. But if you have to use this, you have already failed. He looks you over one last time, his scarred face impassive. Remember who you are, Decius. Now go. You walk into the drunken trident. The noise hits you like a physical blow. Shouting, laughing, the clatter of dice on a wooden table. The air is thick enough to chew. For a moment you freeze. The persona of Decius, a fragile, ill-fitting costume. But then you feel the memory of Crixus's slap. You remember the cold finality in Albinus's voice, and you force yourself to move. You adopt the swagger. You curl your lip in disdain at the filth on the floor. You push your way to an empty table in the corner, one that gives you a clear view of the entrance but keeps you slightly out of the main flow of traffic. You do not look for Crixus's agents. Decius would not care about drunken sailors. You order wine, and when the serving girl brings it, you dismiss her with a wave of your hand, without making eye contact, just as you were taught. You sit, you wait. Every minute stretches into an eternity. Your heart is a wild bird trapped in your ribs. You force your hand to be steady as you lift the cup to your lips. Then he enters. You know it's him instantly. Hanno is a bull of a man, a Carthaginian, his skin weathered dark by the sun and sea, a thick scar running down one cheek. He moves with the confident, dangerous grace of a man who is utterly at home in the violent world of the sea. 2 of his sailors, equally brutish, flank him. Hanno's eyes scan the room. He is looking for his contact. His gaze sweeps past you once dismissively. You are not the man he usually meets. Panic, cold and electric, flashes through you. This is the first test. You do not stand, you do not wave. You wait for his eyes to come back to you, and when they do, you give the signal. You slowly, deliberately tug on your earlobe. Hanno's eyes narrow. He is confused. He says something to his men, and they take up positions by the door, their hands resting on the hilts of the short swords tucked into their belts. Hanno walks towards your table alone. He stops before you, looming like a thundercloud. You are not Pollux, he says, his voice a low, dangerous rumble. You do not look up at him immediately. You take another slow sip of your wine. You are Decius. You are bored. This interruption is an annoyance. Pollux has a stomach complaint, you say, your voice flat, affecting an air of supreme indifference. Lord Titus sent me instead. He grows impatient. You have used the name. You have used the title. You have conveyed the impatience. Crixus's drills are all you have. Hanno does not relax. He remains standing, studying you. I have no orders to give the dispatch to anyone but Pollux. This is the critical moment. You look up at him, and for the first time, you let a flash of cold arrogance into your eyes. Your orders are to deliver the dispatch to a representative of Lord Titus. I am that representative. Do you wish for me to return to Rome and inform my master that a mere ship captain questions his arrangements? I can assure you, his displeasure will be memorable. You have invoked the name of Titus as a threat. You are using the very fear that has haunted you for days as your own weapon. A flicker of uncertainty crosses Hanno's face. He knows Titus's reputation for cruelty. A flogging for a slave is one thing. A captain who disrupts his master's sensitive business is another matter entirely. He is powerful here in his tavern, but in Rome he is nothing. He makes a decision. He reaches into his tunic and pulls out a small sealed scroll. It is not the final prize, but the first key. The tavern keeper's wife, Hanno says, his eyes locked on yours. What is her name? The password, the final test. Your mind goes blank for a terrifying second. The noise of the tavern fades. You can feel the sweat trickling down your back. Then Crixus's voice, hard and insistent, echoes in your memory from the endless drills. Livia, you say, your voice steady, and she has a new mole on her left cheek. Lord Titus finds it Amusing, the detail. The specific, intimate, and slightly insulting detail. It is the kind of thing a master's inner circle would know and mock. It is the key that proves you belong. Hanno's face relaxes. The tension goes out of his shoulders. He has been convinced. He tosses the scroll onto the table. Give this to Lycomedes, he grunts. It is the manifest. The other item is for Lord Titus's eyes only. It is at the warehouse. Come, your heart hammers. It is a complication. The most important item, the seal, is not on his person. It is at his warehouse, a place where he is surrounded by his men on his own ground. This is far more dangerous, but you have no choice. To refuse now would be to unravel everything. You stand up, affecting the same air of bored impatience. Let us be quick about it, Captain. I have no love for the smells of this city. You follow him out of the tavern, the eyes of his 2 sailors on your back. The street is darker now, the crowd's thinner. He leads you down a series of narrow, winding alleyways, away from the main thoroughfare. The smell of brine and rotting fish is thick in the air. This is wrong. The warehouse district is in the other direction. The realization hits you like a physical blow. You have not convinced him. You have failed. The password, the arrogance. It was all a clever ruse, a test to lure you from the relative safety of the tavern. You are in a deserted alley. Hanno stops and turns to face you. His 2 sailors move to block the entrance of the alley behind you. There is no escape. Hanno smiles, but it is not a pleasant sight. It is the smile of a predator that has cornered its prey. Livia's mole is on her right cheek, fool, and she died of a fever last winter. Your blood turns to ice. Lord Titus received a warning, Hanno says, cracking his knuckles. From a friend. He was told to expect a rat sent by the snake Albinus. He described you perfectly. The quiet merchant from the party. Titus and Albinus. Of course. They are both playing a game so complex that you are nothing but a piece of bait. Albinus sent you here, knowing you might fail, knowing that your capture would confirm Titus's treasonous connections to Hanno. You were a gambit, and you have been lost. Now, Hanno says, pulling a long, wicked-looking knife from his belt. You will tell me everything Albinus is planning, and then I will deliver you to Lord Titus in pieces. This is it, the end, the cold, brutal death in a filthy alley that has been waiting for you all along. But as Hanno steps forward, the memory of Crixus's final lesson flashes in your mind. The knife he gave you. If you have to use this, you have already failed. You have failed, so be it. You also remember his other lesson. Decius is not afraid. Decius brings fear. As Hanno lunges, you do not cower. You do not beg. You do the last thing he expects. You roar. A raw, primal sound of fury and defiance, and you charge him. You ram your shoulder into his midsection, using the element of surprise. The bull of a man stumbles back, shocked by your suicidal audacity. It gives you a second, just one. You don't try to fight him. You know you would lose. As he regains his balance, you turn and sprint, deeper into the alley. A dead end, a high stone wall. You are trapped. Hanno and his men advance slowly now, savoring the moment. They have you, but you hear a new sound, a whistle, high and sharp from the rooftops above. Hanno looks up, confused, and in that instant of distraction, chaos erupts. From the mouth of the alley, Crixus's agents, the drunken sailors from the tavern, appear. But they are not drunk now. They move with the deadly speed of professional killers. At the same time, from the rooftop above, 2 more figures drop down into the alley behind Hanno. Albinus's agents. They were not just in the tavern. They were everywhere. They were the true trap. The fight is over in seconds. It is a whirlwind of brutal, efficient violence. Crixus himself seems to materialize from the shadows, his blade a blur. Hanno and his men are skilled brawlers, but they are no match for trained assassins. They go down in a welter of blood and choked cries. Crixus stands over Hanno's body, his chest heaving slightly. He retrieves the dispatch you failed to get, and another, more heavily sealed document from a pouch inside Hanno's tunic. The temple seal. He had it all along. Crixus walks over to you. You are flattened against the wall, trembling, your mind shattered by the violence and the sheer terrifying brilliance of the deception. It was never about you tricking Hanno. It was about Hanno tricking you, and in doing so, leading Albinus's killers right to the prize. You failed the test, Crixus says, his voice flat. But you did not break, you did not beg, you fought. That has value. He looks at the carnage around you. Lord Albinus has his proof. Titus will be ruined. The ship and its treasonous cargo will be seized by the port authorities, acting on an anonymous tip. He presses the small, bloody knife back into your hand. Our business is concluded, he says. Albinus is a man who pays his debts. Your reward will be waiting for you. A new ship, a new contract, a fortune. He turns to leave. Wait, you call out, your voice shaking. What about Titus? He will know I was involved. He will still hunt me. Crixus pauses at the mouth of the alley. He looks back at you, and for the first time, you see something that resembles a smile on his scarred face. It is a terrifying sight. Titus has other concerns now, he says. The Senate will be busy with his trial for treason. And besides, accidents happen in Rome, especially to men who have lost the protection of powerful friends. The implication is clear. Titus's life expectancy is now measured in days. And Gisela, you ask, the name a painful whisper? The girl? Crixus shrugs, the gesture dismissing 1,000 lives. His property will be forfeit to the state. His slaves will be sold at auction. A pretty young goth like that? She'll fetch a high price. Her fate is out of your hands. It always was. He disappears into the Roman night, leaving you alone in the alley with the dead men and the smell of blood. You have survived. You have won. Albinus has what he wants. Titus is finished. You will be rewarded with wealth beyond your dreams. But as you stumble out of the alley, back into the torch-lit streets of the living, you feel no triumph. You feel hollowed out, scoured clean by the horror you have witnessed and the part you have played. You look down at your hands. They are the hands of a merchant, but they are stained with the blood of a conspiracy. You think of the world you came from, a world of simple right and wrong, of comfort and safety. You have seen behind the curtain of history, into the dark, brutal engine room where power is forged. And you realize, with a soul-crushing certainty, that you can never go back. You have survived the night at the Roman orgy, and you have survived the deadly games that followed. But you have not escaped unchanged. A part of you died in that alley, along with Hanno and his men. The naive, simple man who believed in profit and loss is gone forever. In his place is someone colder, harder, and who understands the true, bloody currency of power. And you will have to live with that knowledge and that fortune for the rest of your days.